Well, January 10th, Governor J.B. Pritzker, he signed a bill that banned certain semi-automatic guns and magazines over certain capacities, with the state requiring you to register your firearms you purchased legally with the state, and that window opens October 1st. Look at the calendar, it's the end of March. So we've had, since January 10th, this law in effect. People unable to go to a gun store to buy, say, a semi-automatic rifle or a handgun that has a magazine taking more than 15 rounds. And this obviously is something that is being challenged in both state-level court and federal courts. With a bunch of moving pieces, we've been covering this for you here every morning with Springfield's Morning News as developments continue. Of course, this week we had Illinois Gun Owner Lobby Day. If you missed any of that coverage, check out some of the previous videos on my YouTube channel, Bishop on Air. But we've been looking at this from step by step, from it being debated before it passed, to how it was changed before it passed, to how it passed and was signed instantly, to then the lawsuits being filed, and now where we're at with all of these lawsuits. So just an overview of the lawsuits. State level court. You've got a case that's going to go up to the Illinois Supreme Court mid-May. That's from the McHenry County judge, which said that the law is unconstitutional in a final judgment. The state appealing that, going to the state Supreme Court. That's about the issue of equal protection, because the law carves out certain individuals from the law being enforced against, including law enforcement, retired law enforcement, active military, however, not retired military. So there's some Vietnam veterans who've reached out to me in emails saying that they served this country. They're a veteran, and now they're going to have to register their firearms with the governor. So there's obviously some questions about equal protection in the state level cases. So that's been a focus of the state level cases. Mid-May, the Macon County case will be heard. You've got other cases on the state level side that's starting with a discovery process. Tom DeVore, the attorney in that case, wanting to get documentation to really spell out this idea of why they chose to carve out certain people in the law enforcement and security space, while the rest of the citizenry, regardless of how many training classes you take or not, you're not eligible. So interesting to see what's going to happen with that discovery. But regardless, that case is still progressing as well. Federal cases. You've got the 4 different cases in the Southern District of Illinois that have been filed. One from the State Rifle Association, one from the National Shooting Sports Foundation, one from Crawford County, which was originally filed in state court but was transferred to federal court. And then you've also got a Federal Firearms Licensees of Illinois case. All 4 of these cases consolidated in downstate Southern District Court for the federal courts. That's going to be heard April 12th, and we've had all the filings go back and forth in that case. However, there's a separate federal case in the Northern District that comes out of McHenry County. This one from the McHenry County State's Attorney, Patrick Keneally, who filed a lawsuit against the state saying that this ban is unconstitutional. So while the state level challenges deal with the issue of equal protections, the federal challenges are dealing a lot with the issue of the Second Amendment and the allegation that this is a blatant violation of the Second Amendment, because semi-automatic weapons are commonly owned weapons all across the board. So in the Keneally case out of McHenry County, the latest filings being had here, let's go ahead and pull this up, where you've got the latest yesterday, a response by defendant J.B. Pritzker, Kwame Raoul, and looking to set and reset hearings. You've got an exhibits that was filed. You've got various other exhibits that were filed. So let's see if we can pull something up here. The memorandum of a decision. Get that opened up. View the documents, and we rock and roll. All right, so here we've got, the memorandum, a little bit of history about what's going on, the posture of the case. It's the role of the courts in considering the constitutionality of public acts, numbers provided, not to judge the prudence of the General Assembly's decision that reform of the criminal justice system is needed. In this case, there is no doubt the policy considerations have caused a great deal of disagreement and consternation over the act itself. Wait, which one is this? This is about the gun ban, right? Not the Safety Act. All right, plaintiffs submit that they are entitled to a declaratory judgment because the act amended multiple portions of the Illinois Constitution. Yeah, this ain't right. This is a totally separate case. I don't know if that's in reference to the Safety Act. It looks... I'm going to have to pour through that some more. But interesting. So they're talking about bail in that response. We'll have to see if some of the other documents in that case are actually pertaining to the Second Amendment challenge. So we'll get to that next. We'll also hear from the governor talking about collection of gun data and more. It's all here on WMAY with Springfield's Morning News. I'm Greg Bishop, and stay tuned. Much more. Going through some of the latest filings in the case that was brought by the McHenry County State's Attorney Patrick Keneally against Illinois' gun ban in McHenry County. This is in the Northern District Federal Courts. Originally, it was filed in state courts, and then the state transferred it to federal court. If you remember, there was a docket entry that we went over a couple of weeks ago where the judge really chastised the state, taking umbrage with them filing to move it to the federal courts, and then motioning that the federal courts don't have the jurisdiction over the case. So what is it, they said, and even warning that the attorneys could have to pay personally for the court's time. So we then look at the latest docket entry, and the latest docket entry was yesterday, and it has several attachments, and one of the attachments actually deals with the issue of no cash bail that's in state level court. Other attachments include the firearms cases, accuracy firearms in state level court, and a review of some federal case where sheriffs are trying to ultimately have the state responsible for having federal immigration detainers issued. And having to comply with that. So I'll have to, that's one of those things where you're going to have to really dig deep into what the arguments there are, but still the indication is that case is proceeding in McHenry County in the Northern District of Illinois. Let's hear what Governor J.B. Pritzker had to say about firearms. He was asked yesterday at a stop in Decatur about firearm data collection. Here's the question and answer.
That required ISP to collect a bunch of data on gun crimes in the state. They're supposed to report it to the General Assembly and to you every year, put it up for the public to see. ISP sent a report last month that they've been unable to compile that data. How can policymakers like you and Representative Scheer make good, comprehensive statewide gun policy when we don't have a full picture? And what's your administration doing to address some of these reporting?
I think it's an excellent example for all of us that just passing a law by itself isn't going to get the job done if there is a problem with implementing the law. That's not a fault of the General Assembly. I think good intentions and the administration, good intentions to be able to gather that data. Here's what ISP has discovered, which is as you go county by county and law enforcement agency by law enforcement agency, it turns out the systems are some range of on paper to something that's, let's say, somewhat modernized. And so collecting that data year in and year out, or even month in and month out, has just been very difficult. The ISP has found they can't get the data from some places. And so it's incomplete. ISP is not able to deliver what the law wants it to deliver. And I think we all realize that there are maybe some adjustments that need to be made and support for the modernization of law enforcement systems at the local level. Again, it depends on where you go, right? Chicago has systems that allow them to report on a very regular basis. You probably know, Jeremy, better than I do. I think it's on a weekly basis. They're able to deliver stats in every category. I won't name places, but let's just say local law enforcement in some smaller jurisdictions really can't deliver that stuff, in a timely fashion. So we need to make a change in the law is likely a need. And then we need to make sure that we're, have systems that regularly pull the data, and it isn't a human interaction that is required for every one of these jurisdictions. We just have too many local law enforcement agencies to be able to do that.
So Governor J.B. Pritzker being asked about collecting gun data to what craft new laws. This while you've got arguments in the courts that say you can't use stats to abridge constitutional civil liberties. And contrasting Illinois to Florida, this headline from CBS, Florida legislature approves carrying concealed loaded guns without permits. So it would be constitutional carry. Essentially is what it should say. The legislature passing this, and the bill now goes to Ron DeSantis, a Republican governor who's repeatedly indicated he will sign it. The contrast between Florida and Illinois. Florida, a ban on certain types of weapons, going to make felons out of people who don't register those guns. And in Florida, that permitless carry. So, interesting contrast.
From the Fly SPI studios, take the